So here we are again. All right, 095 final exam review. This is from the sheet I passed out. You can follow along on the problems. I'm actually I'm redoing this first section because it wasn't turning out to be dark enough. So problem number 1, simplify. The absolute value of negative 11. Now the absolute value is the distance a number is from 0. So it's going to always be a positive number. For instance, negative 11, which would be somewhere around here, negative 11, is 11 from 0. So negative 11 equals a positive 11. Just as 6, the absolute value of 6 would equal 6. The absolute value of a negative 1,000 equals 1,000. So it's the distance from 0. Number 2, simplify. Right, this is an order of operations problem, and we use our mnemonic PEMDAS. You don't have to use it, but you just want, this helps you remember what you do first and second, but with this caveat. The P, which stands for parentheses, is actually any grouping symbols. The E is exponents. The M and the D are multiply or divide, whichever comes first. Everything is whichever comes first from left to right. And then the addition or subtraction from left to right. Later on we see that actually we could consider all signed numbers as being, instead of being like added to each other or subtracted from each other, they are all signed numbers that are added to each other. But we're going to talk about that in a little while. Okay, so the two parentheses we have, one is negative 15 and the other is 6 minus 1. Nothing to do with negative 15. So we'll deal with the 6 minus 1. 6 minus 1 is 5. We'll take care of that. Then we'll just copy everything else down. Okay, so then we'll go to the left, we'll look for multiplication or division. So the first multiplication or division is 4 times 3. So 4 times 3 is 12. Copy everything else down. 12. Then we have 2 times 5. Alright, that's our next multiplication or division. So 2 times 5 is 10. So now we have negative 15 plus 12 minus 10. So now we have all addition and subtraction. Now you can consider them all as being positive or negative numbers, rather than minus 15 plus 12 minus 10. We could say, oh, it's a negative 15 plus positive 12 plus a negative 10. We could see it that way. But anyway, we'll start with negative 15 plus a positive 12 is negative 3. You subtract the 2 and you keep the sign of the larger absolute value, or the largest number, which in this case is the 15. 15 is bigger than the 12. Not, avoiding the signs, ignoring the signs. Okay, and that's minus 10. So adding a negative 3 plus a negative 10, or negative 3 minus 10, which would be the same thing, is a negative 13. So our answer is negative 13. We could also say negative 3, and we could change the operation, assuming that's a subtraction. We'll change it to an addition, but then we change the sign of the 10. So you see it's still a negative 3 plus a negative 10 equals negative 13. Number 3, simplify. 6 to the second power minus, in parentheses, 5 minus 2 to the third power. Then it's close parentheses. Okay, so first we look at our parentheses. We only have one parentheses here, and it is this one. So we'll look at that one first. 5 minus 2 to the third power is in the parentheses. So we'll just copy everything down. We have 6 to the second power minus 5. Oh, it's hard to write with this stupid thing. That's supposed to be a 5. Let's erase that and try again. There we go. Okay. 5 minus 2 to the third power. 2 to the third power, ignoring the negative sign, because the third power, the exponent 3 has nothing to do with that negative sign, only to do with the 2. So there's 8. 2 times 2 times 2. Okay, so now we're still talking about the parentheses before we do that first exponent. So 5 minus 8, or 5 plus a negative 8, which is a negative 3. 6 to the second power minus 3, or plus a negative 3. Holy crap. Alright, so 6 to the second power is 36 minus 3 equals 33. Number 4, simplify the expression. 5 times, parentheses, z minus 5, close parentheses, plus 5z minus 2. Now just because there are letters in there doesn't mean you have to give up all hope. So, can't do anything with the z minus 5, but our first multiplication or division is 5 times that parentheses. So, we use our distribution property. We multiply the 5 times the x and the 5 times the 5, which gives us 5z minus 25. And that's plus 5z minus 2. Okay, so we can't subtract the 25 and the 5z because they're not like terms. We don't know what the z is. We can deal with the 25 and the negative 2 though. So we could add these two together, and the two like terms here are these two. We can add those two together. So we're going to add our z's together and our numbers, our constants together. As I said before, we can add the like terms, 5z and plus the 5z and the negative 25 plus a negative 2. Remember, we're now looking at all the numbers, all the terms as being added together, as being signed terms, either plus or, positive or negative, signed terms, all added together. So we can commute them, we can move them around. So in this case, we can move the 5z's next to each other. 5z plus 5z. And then we can move the negative terms next to each other. Negative 25 plus the negative 2. See, I don't have to put the plus sign in there anymore because I just assume it is. Okay, 5z plus 5z gives us 10 of them. 10z's. Negative 25 plus a negative 2 gives us a negative 27. Number 5, simplify the expression. Okay, so if you use the idea now that each term, the 7, the negative x, the positive 4x, the negative 3, the negative 9x, are all added together as if there were little invisible plus signs between all those terms. But each one of those terms is a signed term. Is either a negative or a positive term, and they're all added together. I don't know how many times I could say this, but I should probably keep saying it. So if that's the case, then we can commute them. We can move the like terms next to each other, or you could just add them up in your head if you don't get confused. So, but you may want to commute them. So let's commute them. We'll say 7 plus a negative 3 plus a negative x plus 4x plus a negative 9x. So 7 plus a negative 3 is 4. I can add the two negatives together. A negative x plus a negative 9x is a negative 10x. And then plus a positive 4x. So, I mean, this way you're just adding signed numbers together. It's an easier way to think of it. So we have 4, which we can't combine with either of those x's, but we have the negative 10x and we have the positive 4x. Adding those together, we subtract them, and we get 6. And the larger number is the 10. The absolute value of this is 10. So we'll keep the negative sign. So it's 4 minus 6x. Number 6. Write the phrase as a variable expression. Use x to represent a number. So we're going to translate this into numbers. Negative 2 times the sum of a number and 6. So, well, negative 2 times, and when you see this sum of a number or difference of a number, quotient of a number and something, then you know you're going to be putting that, whatever that is, the sum, the difference, the quotient, into a parentheses. So negative 2 times, we'll use a parentheses for negative 2 times the parentheses. The sum of a number and 6, a number, is that going to be x and 6. Not too hard. Number 7, solve the equation. 10x plus 10 minus 9x equals 12. Okay, so now we have an equation, but we still follow our rules, our PEMDAS rules, for simplifying both sides of the equation. By both sides, I mean this side and this side. We're going to simplify those two sides. Of course, there's nothing on the right, but on the left we have 10x plus 10 minus 9x. Okay, so we look at it as if it said 10x plus 10 plus a negative 9x. Okay, so we can combine our two x's. 10x plus a negative 9x is just plain 1x, or x. And that's plus 10 equals 12. So we want to have our x alone, so the only way to do that is to get rid of that 10. The only way to get rid of the 10 is to subtract it or add a negative 10 to both sides. Can't just do it to one side. So I'll have x plus 10 minus 10 equals 12 minus 10. The 10's cancel themselves out, and we get x equals 12 minus 10, or 12 plus a negative 10, which is 2. There's our answer. Number 8. Write the sentence as an equation. Use x to represent a number, and find the number. So, again, we're translating, but this time we have equals. So, first thing we do is we look for our equal sign. And of course, here it just says equals, so that's got to be it. Equals. What does it equal? Equals 5. So we have 7 increased by 2 times a number. So 7, it's increased, so plus 2 times the number would be 2x equals 5. And then now it says, then find the number. Okay, so we want to get our x alone. Now we're just talking about our x term. Our x term alone first. So we're not going to start dividing the x by 2 yet. First we're going to deal with the 7. So to get rid of that 7, we go 7 plus a negative 7 plus our 2x equals 5 plus a negative 7. Notice I'm not putting the plus in there, but I'm just putting negative 7. Okay, so 7 minus 7, 0. Gives us 2x equals 5 plus a negative 7 is a negative 2. Now we can divide both sides by 2. Divide by 2, divide by 2. The 2's cancel. This one gives us a negative 1. So x equals a negative 1. So negative 2 divided by 2 is a negative 1. Number 9. Solve the equation. 6 times y minus 3 in parentheses equals 2y minus 42. So we do our distribution first. We've got this. Let's bring this down a little bit. We've got the 6 times the y and the 6 times 3. Okay, so 6 times y is 6y. 6 times negative 3 is a negative 18. And that equals 2y minus 42. Okay, so we want to get our y terms all on one side, our variable terms on one side, and our numbers on the other side. It doesn't matter which one you start with. You can start with the y terms, or you can start with the constants, the numbers. So I think I'll start with the numbers in this case. So to get rid of that negative 18, I'm going to add 18. 6y minus 18 plus 18 equals 2y minus 42 plus 18. Okay, the 18's on the left side of the equation cancel themselves out, so we have 6y equals 2y. Negative 42 plus 18 is a negative 24. You can do that on the side. You take 42, since they're opposite signs, negative 42 and there's a positive 18. So we take 42 minus 18 and we get 24. But we got to keep the sign of the larger number, the number with the largest absolute value. That turns out to be our negative 42, because 18 is smaller than 42. Negative 42 is smaller than 18, but 18 is smaller than the absolute value of negative 42. See? So our 24 then is going to end up being negative. So it's a negative 24. All right, so now we have our constants on one side, but our variables are not. So to get all our variables on the left side, we'll need to subtract or add a negative 2y to both sides. So we have 6y plus a negative 2y equals 2y plus a negative 2y minus 24. Okay, 6y minus 2y is 4y. I'm going to have to write small here. 4y equals negative 24. Now we can divide by 4, and we end up getting, color this in, make it look pretty. We end up getting, 4 into 4 is 1, so we get y equals negative 24 divided by 4 is a negative 6. Y equals negative 6. Test this, you can stick the negative 6 back into our problem up at the top.
Done.
So our answer was y equals negative 6. But it's not a bad idea to check. When you can check, and it's not going to take too long, do it. You're going to find out if your answer is wrong, you can adjust your answer to make it right. You can go back and see what you did wrong, or you can you'll suddenly see when you try to you check it, you'll say, oh, I'm off by, I should have been a positive or something. You'll see that. Okay, so we'll substitute it in for the y. We've got 6 times, now we'll stick in our negative 6, minus 3, that equals 2 times negative 6 minus 42. Okay, so this becomes 6 times a negative 9 equals negative 12 minus 42. So 6 times a negative 9 is a negative 54. And you check, you'll see if you add a negative 12 to a negative 42, you also get a negative 54. Because both sides are equal, that means that our negative 6 works in that equation. Negative 54 does equal negative 54. We're done. Number 10. Okay, we have a word problem. Now, originally I did this word problem two different ways, and then I realized, well, there's a third way that we have learned how to do it, which kind of incorporates both those other two ways. So I'm going to do it that way, because we've learned how to do that recently, and I think it's a really good thing to know. Okay, so here's our word problem. In 2008, Pennsylvania had 14 more electoral votes than Connecticut. If the total number of electoral votes for these two states is 28, find the number for each state. Okay, so first thing we do is we assigned X to one of the things we're looking for and Y to the other thing. Or we could say assign a variable to each one. So Pennsylvania, we're going to call PA, and we'll decide that that's our X. Okay, and then we're going to make Connecticut our Y. Alright, so now after we've done that, let's find some equations to equate these X and Y's. We need two, as you know, we need two equations with two variables. Then we can solve them. Okay, so Pennsylvania had 14 more electoral votes than Connecticut. So the X equals the Y plus 14. See, Pennsylvania is greater, has 14 more. So if we add the 14 to the Connecticut, we get it. And then with the other equation is, if the total number of electoral votes for these two states is 28, find the number for each state. Total number of electoral votes for these two states. So both of them added together, Pennsylvania plus Connecticut. So our X plus our Y equals 28. Okay, so now we have our two equations. And we have, four different ways of doing it. We could graph them, we could make a table, but I think that the best way is to either use the substitution method or the elimination method. So why don't I show both of those? All right, the substitution method, well, it's already set up to help us with the substitution method. We've got X equaling something. That X has got to be the same as this X. So I'm going to substitute what that X equals into what the other X is. So I'll recopy this. Instead of X, I'm going to put in Y plus 14 plus Y, and that equals 28. Alright, so then I remove the parentheses, I get 2Y plus 14 equals 28. And subtract 14 from both sides. 2Y plus 14 plus a negative 14 equals 28 plus a negative 14. So that gives me 2y equals 14. Divide both sides by 2. We get y equals 14 divided by 2 is 7. So y equals 7. But of course we have to find out what x equals 2. So if we stick 7 into our first equation up there, x equals y plus 14, or 7 plus 14 is 21. So our x equals 21 and our y equals 7. Or, in other words, x, which is Pennsylvania equals 21, Connecticut equals 7. Alright, the other way we can do this is with the elimination process. With the elimination process, we'll start out the same way. Pennsylvania equals x. Connecticut equals y. Okay, our first sentence again says Pennsylvania had 14 more electoral votes than Connecticut. Pennsylvania has more, so x equals y plus 14. Okay, and then our second sentence says total number of electoral votes for these two states is 28. So that means, I'm going to put it over here, y plus x equals 28. The reason I set them up this way is because, I mean, I could have set them up the other way we did before, but here I've got my two y's on top of each other, because when I want to eliminate them, I want to get the same thing on top of each other, actually the opposite of each other. You'll see what I'm going to do next. I want the two y's to be the opposite. I want one to be y and one to be negative y. I mean, I could have done this with the x's too. I could have had one of them being x and the other being negative x. But this works out nicely. So I'm going to multiply both sides of one of the equations by a negative 1. So I think I'll use this one. This is going to be times a negative 1. This is times a negative 1. So if I rewrite both equations, then here's what I'm going to get. I'm going to have x equals y plus 14, which is the same thing I had before, right? And then I'm going to rewrite my second equation here. Multiplying by negative 1 gives me a negative 28 equals a negative y plus 14. Okay, so the elimination process, I add them together. Both sides of the equation are equal, so adding a negative 28 to the x and a negative y plus 14 to the y plus, oh, that's supposed to be negative, whoopsie. Alright, I'm just going to do that again. Negative times this side, negative times this side. You notice I didn't distribute over both of them, so I'm going to just rewrite it down here. Negative 28, negative 1 times that side is negative 28, times the other side is negative y minus x. Okay, because I would have gotten the wrong answer if I didn't distribute that negative over both of those terms. Okay, now I'm going to rewrite the top one right on top of it. X equals y plus 14. Okay, I'm going to add them together. So here I'll get x minus 28, because I can't combine that x and that negative 28. Here my y's, they cancel each other out, so that's just 0, so I'm not going to even write it down. And on the other side, I get a negative x plus 14. Okay, so I want to have my variables on one side and my numbers on the other. So I'm going to add negative or positive 28 to both sides. So we have x plus 28 minus 28 equals a negative x plus 28 plus 14. Okay, so that gives us x equals a negative x plus positive 42. Now I'm going to add x to both sides. Plus x plus x. My two x's on the right cancel out. I end up with 2x equals 42. Divide both sides by 2, and I get the two 2's cancel out. I get x equaling a negative 42 divided by 2, no, positive 42, excuse me. Positive 42 divided by 2, which is 21. So my x equals 21. Again, you notice I end up with the x this time rather than the y, but it doesn't matter. You can solve it for either x or y, because you're going to get the same thing. So Pennsylvania is 21. Pennsylvania equals PA equals 21. And now there's a total number of 28, so 28 minus 21 is 7. Connecticut equals 7. Also, you notice you add Connecticut plus Pennsylvania, you get 28. You can stick the 21 back into one of those equations, it doesn't matter which one, and you'll end up getting 7 for Connecticut again.